signs, out with the old, in with the new.
I'm Walter Ellis, a junior on the men's basketball team, and this is 5 questions. I think the ball was just finding me. That's all I really remember from that is I think we came out early and I think we established ourselves like in the paint and things like that. So it kind of just opened things up around the perimeter for me. And I think Jimmy did a really good job last year and everybody else on the team was just finding me. The ball was just coming my way. And yeah, it was going in that day. So no, it was a fun game. I think early in the season it kind of helped us get our confidence a little bit and things like that. So no, it was a good team win for us. I would say our trip to Hawaii was really fun, and I know we lost to TCU, but big win against Rhode Island, and then we beat UNLV pretty handily on Christmas Day, and that whole trip was just really fun because I think obviously anytime you can get out of Lewisburg for the winter, that was a good switch up, and especially being able to go to California before then and be with Matt O'Reilly's family, and then go to Hawaii right after that. So I'd say that was probably my best memory since being at Bucknell. Just it was a really good atmosphere for the week that we were there. I feel like it's almost twofold because I think in a sense of kind of the expectation especially in my first 2 years, it's pretty much all shooting, you know what I mean? So with that is I think there's even a progression of seeing how I've developed as a shooter because even compared to last year, it's like after this whole summer, I had a really good summer and all that stuff being home. And I think even looking back from now compared to last year, it's like my shot feels night and day better than it was even last year. Which I know for a lot of people it doesn't really make sense because it's like, oh, you led the league in 3. But like, I told you this last year when it came out, it's like, I didn't really think I shot that well from 3 last year personally. So it's even now getting in our practice, thing, except my shot feels night and day better than it was last year in so many areas. But even also being home this summer is just really working on my handle and ball screen work and a lot of that stuff. So it's like, I think now, while I still obviously shoot a lot of 3s, that's what I'm good at, but there's a lot of other stuff to my game now that we've been working on all summer and really specific at attacking and things like that. So I think in a sense of like becoming a more consistent shooter and things like that, but also just adding in a lot of the stuff off the bounce and stuff like that. And I know you mentioned defensively too, is I think once you start realizing kind of how physical you can be on the defensive end, it helps you a lot because I think now I'm in my junior year now and I just feel a lot stronger on the defensive end and you kind of just know what to expect a little bit more. And so nothing really surprised you or anything like that, and you're able to really play really aggressively and really confidently on the defensive end. So I'd say kind of, I know that was kind of 3 things, but it kind of split it up into those different areas. That's kind of how I think about it. So. I had a couple of D1 offers coming in for football after my sophomore year, and at the time I was better at football than I was at basketball by far. And I think I always tell everybody it's like if I really wanted to play a high major or anything, I would have just kept playing football. But I didn't really, and those offers were coming in from like MAC schools and things like that, so like pretty good football schools and things like that. But I think for me is I just didn't really have the passion like I did in basketball. And I think honestly, if I would have put in, even at that time my sophomore year, if I would have put in as many hours on the field as I did on the court, like probably, I mean, I had coaches telling me you got to never play like Ohio State, like things like that. So with that is, yeah, I probably would have played football if I wasn't playing basketball. But I think tennis is honestly probably my favorite sport outside of basketball. When I'm home, I play tennis all the time. So if I could play tennis, I mean, it's hard to be a professional tennis player. But if I could be a professional tennis player, I would love to do that. I still think about this in this context, but like I'm always curious to see like how good I could have been at football because I was a wide receiver too, and we had a really good team at my high school, Adams, and my sophomore year. We had a really good team, and I was one of our receivers on the outside, and it was like there's not a lot of guys that can. I mean, it's just hard because I mean you think of like I'm 6'5", can run, can jump, and things like that. It's kind of hard. You don't really get those a lot in football, and so I think with that is I always wonder like how if I would have put in the time that I did to basketball, like how good I could have been at football because I think I really could have played Power 5 football without a doubt. But so I'm always curious. I think that ship has sailed a little bit because I think I've kind of gotten to a groove with this whole basketball thing and everything like that. But I am always curious to see what that would be like if I were to play football and things like that. So. I think the biggest thing is just controlling what you can control. I think I think a lot of guys, you kind of get into a specific situation, minutes might not be what you want, might be confused as why you're not playing. You don't really know what the situation is. Nobody's really telling you anything. But I think at some point you always kind of got to just take it back to yourself. And even if everything on the outside is kind of going crazy and you don't really know what's going on, you can always just control how you're working and just keep your head down and keep pushing through it. So I think the biggest thing for me is, yeah, I think that kind of carried into a lot of how I'm going about life, especially after last season, just learning a lot through that season and getting to where I am now. It's kind of like, even if everything around me is kind of just going crazy and things like that, really just kind of sitting down with myself and be like, okay, what can you do, even if stuff isn't going as you want? Like, what can you do extra to make sure that, because again, it's all the long-term goal of like just trying to really recognize like where do you want to be at in 5 years, where do you want to be at in 10 years, and I think if you always kind of frame it in that context while also like sitting in the now, you can kind of just shift your focus a little bit, kind of long-term, and think of it as more of a learning process than something that is going to like ruin your career or anything like that. So no, I think really just kind of just sitting down with yourself, being confident in yourself and things like that, and kind of just keeping your head down and just working through anything that comes your way. So.